to start Parshas Bechukotai, chapter 26, verse 3. In Bechukotai telechu, if you walk in my ways, it's mitzvosai tishmeru, and you guard my commandments, va'asisem osam, and you do them. What does this mean? Rashi tells us, if you walk in my ways and you guard my commandments, isn't that the same thing? So walking in my ways can't be guarding my commandments. So what does it mean? In Bechukosai telechu, yachol zeh kiyum hamitzvos. I might think that if you walk in my ways means if you uphold my commandments. Kashomer, when it states ves mitzvosai tishmeru, observe my commandments, vasisem osam, and you do them. This is also referring to the fulfillment of the mitzvos. Amani mekayim in Bechukosai telechu. So what does it mean when it says if you walk in my ways? Shetiyu amelim b'Torah. That it means that you should be laboring in the Torah. You labor in the Torah. So that it means that you have to, hello, Ben. So we're in chapter 26, verse 3. It means that you need to, it's not enough to know Torah, you have to toil in the Torah. You have to make a deep commitment to Torah study. Torah study we said today a story about Rabbi Elimelech, that he was upset with one of his Hasidim, who was himself a great rabbi. He said, he said, Eliyahu Hanavi came to me complaining. He said that he wants to study Torah with you and you're refusing. He said, yeah. So it was Rabbi Aaron Levi Parmalshan. He says, yeah, I don't want to study from Eliyahu Hanavi. It's too easy. I don't want to study from Elijah the prophet. I need to do our mewas in the Torah. I need to do working hard. So, okay. Yeah, a question, man? Okay. So, that's mitzvosai tishmeru. If you guard my commandments, she says, have a melim b'Torah. Be diligent, labor hard in the Torah study. Almanas l'shmor l'kayim, to guard and to uphold. As it states, "Limadatem osamu shmartem la'asosam," and you shall study them and guard them to do them. Bi'itam, in their time. Okay, next verse. V'nasati, if you work hard with the mitzvos, v'nasati gishmechem bi'itam, and I will give you rain in its proper time. V'nasna aretz yivua, and the land will give off its produce. Ve'etz hasadeh yitain perio, and the trees of the field will give forth its fruit. What does this mean? Bi'itam, in their time. Bisha'ah she'ein derech b'nei adam latzeis. What does it mean? I'll give you rain in the proper time. When's the proper time? We want it to rain, but we also don't want it to rain when we have tickets to the outdoor concert. We don't want it to rain then, or we don't want it to rain when we have tickets to the baseball game. The baseball game will get rained out. So when do we want it to rain? We don't want it to rain if you have to work outside and you can't work because it's raining. You don't want it to rain when trying to get the minyan and people are going to say, I can't come to study Torah because it's raining. So when do you want it to rain? The best time for it to rain is when people are home on Friday night. They've gone home for the night. They have to be home on Friday night. They're not going out. Where are they going to go on Friday night? They have to be home. So that's the time we want it to rain. We don't. So that's the night we want it to rain. Another text of Rashi says we want it to rain on the night of the fourth day, i.e. Tuesday nights. The Gemara in Tainus mentions that on Tuesday nights there's a harmful spirit that roams about, and so therefore people stay home. According to Gemara Pesachim, that spirit roams around on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, so people stay home. That was what they were trying to convince husbands and wives that was our time to be together. So they said there's a harmful spirit outside, so stay home. Yes, Jerry.
Yes, I thought that Tuesday was a propitious day to have Jewish weddings.
This is Tuesday night, so it's after Tuesday.
So you're talking about Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night, Wednesday.
Okay. Thank
you. So it's harmful spirits roaming around. I don't know what that means. Okay, ve'etza sadeh, and the tree of the field will give off its fruit. Rashi says, Hein ilanei sirak. These are the trees which don't bear fruit, but in the future they will give off fruits. But yeah, okay. V'yisig lachem dayesh es batzir, ubatzir yasig es zera, v'achaltem lachmachem l'sova, v'yishavtem levetach ba'artzachem. And if you walk in God's ways, then the threshing will overtake the vintage, and the vintage will last until the sowing, and you'll eat your bread and be satisfied, and you will dwell securely in your land. Rashi says, "V'sigochem dayesh es batzir." Sheyehei dayesh merubah, that the threshing will be plentiful. V'atem asukim ba, and you'll be busy with it ad batzir until the vintage. Ubatzir, and with the vintage at shas hazara, until the time of the sowing. Meaning to say, you're never going to have any downtime. You'll be working so hard because just to harvest all your crops. Then Rashi in the verse says, "And I'll give you bread and you'll be satisfied." Ochel kima v'umis barech b'me'av. You will eat a bit and it'll become blessed in his innards. Okay. Next verse states, "V'natati shalom ba'aretz," and I'll give peace in the land. U'shechavtem ve'imach harid, and you'll lie down and you will not be frightened. V'shpati chaya min haaretz, and I will cause wild beasts to cease from the land. V'charav lo ta'avor ba'artzachem, and a sword will not cross your land. So if you do all this, I'll make peace in your land. You'll lie securely, without trembling, and there will be no wild animals, and no sword will pass through your land. So what does this mean, Rashi? He tells us, I will provide peace. Shema tomorrow, maybe you're going to say, you can say, well, I have so much food. What does it matter if there's no peace? You know, the mafiosos are going to take all my food. Verse says, Achar calls those. A verse says, "V'nasati shalom ba'aretz," and I'll give you peace. Mikan, from here we learn, shalom shakul keneged hakol. That peace equals everything. You can have everything in the world. If you don't have peace, it's nothing. You can have properties and money, but if you have turmoil in your life, it's worth nothing. As it states, Ose shalom uvareas hakol, one who makes peace and creates everything. So peace is the equivalent of everything else. If you don't have peace, you have nothing. You think you're secure, but if you don't have peace, you have nothing. So the Gemara says, not the Gemara. V'cherev lo ta'avor ba'artzachem, and a sword will not cross your land. Ein tzarich omar shelo yavo'u l'milchama. For sure, the swords will not come for war, because it already said you'll have peace. El afilu avor derech artzachem. But even to pass through your lands, Medina, from one country to another country, will not happen. Well, why do we care if another country is passing through your land without and not waging war with you? Why does that bother you?
Because in passing, they consume all your goods. They take your crops, they sleep in your houses, they take your wives.
You mean even though they're not waging war, they still cause problems?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wants soldiers around. You have a bunch of men who
have no vested interest, they're just taking.
And they have weapons.
That's how they get to take.
Right.
Their weapons change their morals.
That was what was the source of the revolution in the United States. Well, Ben is a scholar; he can correct us, but that's why we said, wasn't it stated in the Declaration of the Bill of Rights? Doesn't it say? What does it say that you don't have to quarter?
Quarter troops, yeah.
You don't have to quarter. You don't have to take the troops into your homes, right?
But they did.
What?
That was against the English. When it was a civil war, they threw that out the window.
No, we said that was what it said in the Revolutionary War. We said we don't want a quarter anymore.
Yeah.
But Shmuel, let me ask you this. In
Yeah.
verse 6, it says in this translation, I will give the land respite from vicious beasts, and no sword shall cross your land.
That's what we just read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so then it says in 7, your army will chase your enemies and they'll fall before you by the sword. So that kind of implies they are crossing through.
No,
Passing
those
through
are
the
the enemies outside the land. You're going to chase your enemies outside.
Okay.
Let's see what the verse says. Verse 7. You're going to chase your enemies, and they'll fall before you by the sword. Each man by his friend. Meaning to say, they're not falling by your sword, they're falling by their own sword. And 500 from you will 5 of you will pursue 100, and 100 from you will pursue 10,000. And your enemies will fall before you by the sword. Hold on 1 second. Let me do this, Rashi. Just give me one. Yes, ask your question.
How does this Torah text apply to Israel's modern state today?
What do you mean by that?
Well, Israel does not have peace. They're in constant conflict with
well, who says they're keeping the Torah? It says, if you walk in my ways and you guard my commandments, do you think they're not keeping the Torah? You want to know something? I'm not, listen, far be it from me to criticize the people in the land of Israel, but I'm just saying, nobody would argue that the state of Israel is keeping the laws of the Torah. They're selectively keeping some laws when it suits the government leaders. But as a whole society, the society is not a theocracy.
Okay.
And so it states, 5 of you will pursue 100, and 100 of you will pursue 10,000. So Rashi here says, from the weak who are among you, and not from the mighty who are among you. So 5 from among you, from the weak amongst you, will pursue the strong, will pursue them, but not even from your strongest ones. 5 from you will pursue 100, and 100 from you will pursue 10,000. This is one of my favorite Rashis. Rashi says, is that the calculation? If 5 can pursue 100, then how many should 100 be able to pursue? What's the ratio?
20. Well, 5 to 100.
If 5 can pursue 100,
yeah.
How many should 100 be able to pursue?
20,000 or 2,000?
2,000. 2,000. If 5 can pursue 100, then 100 should pursue 2,000. That's what Rashi says. It should have said 100 from you will pursue 2,000. So why does it say 100 will pursue 10,000? The ratio is off. If 5 can pursue 100, then 100 should be able to pursue 2,000. But yet it states 100 can pursue 10,000. Everybody follow the question? That's Rashi's question. You follow that, Alan?
It's a good question.
Okay, so what's his answer? His answer is a very powerful lesson. You can't compare the power of a few who are doing the Torah to the many who are doing the Torah. All of a sudden, their power is exponentially greater. So it's not the same ratio. All of a sudden, when you have 5, they can accomplish this, but when you have 100, they can accomplish even more.
See, I read it differently though, because the previous comment is quoting from the Bechukotai, Sifra, chapters 2 and 4. It says 5 of the weakest among you.
Right.
So I thought that, I took that to mean, well, the ratio is different. If it's 5 of the weakest among you could get 100, then you need 100 to get 10,000.
You need 100.
What I'm trying to say is that it was a handicap to have the 5 weakest get 100, even with the 5
So
weakest.
if you have 100 regular, they could get to 10,000.
Right.
Okay, it's a nice shot, nice interpretation. That's not what Rashi says, but we'd have to look up the source there and see what they say. So the problem with that is the whole reason why they're saying 5 of the weakest is to make the point just how great the miracle is. So if you're saying 100 of the regular, it just limits the miracle. So they're not going to want to say that.
Okay.
And your enemies will fall before you by the sword. Rashi says, that they will fall before you in a manner that's unusual. They will fall in an unnatural manner. It doesn't tell us what that is. Verse 9. Ufanisi alechem, v'efreisi eschem, v'erbeisi eschem, v'akimosi espriti etchem, and I will turn to you, v'efreisi eschem, and I will increase you, or make you fruitful. V'erbeisi eschem, I'll increase you. V'akimosi espriti etchem. God says, I'll turn to you, I'll make you fruitful, I'll increase you, I'll establish my covenant with you. What does this mean? Rashi says, Efnami kol asakai, I will turn away from all my concerns l'shalem secharcham, to pay your reward. Mashal lama davar domeh, what's this matter like? Melech, to a king, shesachar poalim v'chuhu, who hired workers. What's this parable to? He said, what's he saying? He says, he's saying, I will turn to you. I will turn away from all my concerns to pay your reward. What's the parable to the king? So the Torah's Kohanim, the Midrash, we have to fill in the gaps in the Rashi. It's like a king who hired many workers. There was one worker there who had worked for a long time. The workers went to collect their wages, and this worker went with them. The king said to that worker, my son, I turned to deal with you. These other young men worked little for me, and I paid them little, but I have a substantial account to settle with you. So too, Israel requests its reward from God, and other nations request the reward. God says to Israel, my son, I will turn to you because you've worked for me the most. That's why it says, I will turn to you. Everybody's looking to God to get their reward, but God's turning to the Jewish people if we follow his mitzvos because we've worked a lot, like the king who pays the most loyal worker first. We're in chapter 26, verse 9 in the Rashi. I'll make you fruitful. B'firya v'rivya. You'll have an increase in population. Do you know that the studies show now that, that people are saying that for Mother's Day, they need more mothers because the reproduction rate in this country is below, what's it called? Below replacement rate. So I think you could check this, but somebody quoted me the statistic last week. The only Western country with an above replacement population rate is Israel. Israel, we feel like it's a imperative to a mitzvah to reproduce.
Only because of the Hasidim.
Not only amongst the Haredim. It's not accurate, my friend, that even amongst the non-Haredim, there's a population above replacement. I know Israeli families with that are non-Haredi, they're very large. So, okay, and they will increase you, bekomas the kufa. You will be upright. Not sure what this is meaning. I'm not sure exactly what this is coming to teach us.
Get rid of it.
Increase. Yeah, I'm sorry, Judah, what were you saying?
Okay. Yeah, it's not an imperative, it's a commandment.
What's that?
You said it's imperative for Jews to make lots of babies.
It's a religious obligation. Did I use the word wrong? I'm sorry. Not all of us could go to fancy medical schools like Judah. So some of us, we went to just regular run-of-the-mill colleges.
No, I had to go to Europe, where the Halakha of people are.
You went to a fancy school in Europe. Fair enough. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is I can't figure out why it says, and I'll increase you with an upright bearing. I'm not sure what that's trying to teach us. Okay, yeah, Eliezer, what were you saying?
I'd like to point out in France.
Yeah.
French wine is not imported.
French wine is not imported. Therefore,
The thing about Europe here, wherever you are,
yeah,
that's where you're gonna make it.
yeah, of course, for sure. Very good point. Hello there, my friends. And I will keep my covenant with you. Rashi says here, this is controversial phrase, Rashi, and it says, I'll establish my covenant with you, a brit chadasha, a new covenant. Loka brit harishona, not like the first covenant, shefertem ota, which you annulled at the sin of the golden calf. A brit chadasha, a new covenant, shelo tufar, which will never be annulled. As it states, Karati at Beit Yisrael, at Beit Yehuda, brit chadasha. So here we're talking about creating a Brit Chadasha. What do they call the Christian Bible in Hebrew? Baruch? Yeah, so this is where people can misunderstand this. But God is telling us that he will keep the new covenant with us if we keep the commandments. Okay.
Let me go back to the previous point. You were
Yes.
asking about this business about making them physically large, making them tall.
Right,
That seems consistent with this idea of go forth and multiply.
right.
And there's going to be a lot of you, but not only that, you're going to be big.
You're going to be
It
big.
just feels
Very
like it's part
nice.
of this whole notion of more of everything, more
Right.
units of people.
You're
and
going to
more
be
size.
physically bigger. Very nice. Very, very nice, Ben. Value added to my life with that comment. Thank you. Okay. V'achaltem yashan noshan. And then if you're doing God's will, here we have farmers who just walked in, a pair of farmers. And if you do God's will, you're going to eat that which is very old. V'yasham ipnei chadash totziu. But then you're going to have to remove the old to make way for the new. You know what this is like? This is like when you have a lot of leftovers, and all of a sudden, your friend brings you over a delicious meal. It happens sometimes. And all of a sudden, what do? You have no space to put your new meal in the refrigerator. So you have to get rid of the old. This is a problem of blessings. You have too many blessings. You can't make space for everything. That's what's going to happen if we keep the commandments. We're going to have so many blessings coming upon us. So this is what Rashi says. The fruits will be preserved and good for being aged. The old which has been aged, so the first part is that you're going to have your old crops and they're going to be better than the new, because sometimes the fruits that are aged become better than the new fruits. I don't know. Has this been anybody's experience? What? Wine is different. That's wine. Here's just saying the crops.
Yeah. When certain molds make wheat better.
I guess so. You mean the beer? It makes a better beer if it's an old grain.
I was actually thinking of ergot mold.
I don't know what that is, but okay. So you're saying the old crops. I mean, I've heard of aged wine and aged meat, but I never heard of aged grain. I guess they do that to make it better.
Dried fruit.
Yeah, dried fruit. I mean, but there is that, but I don't think that's what you're referring to, because Nobody thinks dried fruit is better than the fresh fruit. I think that's what they did to preserve it. Yeah, it could be like you
say, which is placed in storage.
Yeah, but I think it's referring to the wheat and the barley. The word fruits in the Bible refers not only to like they didn't have apples and oranges. So what did they have? They had dates, figs, and wheat, barley. I mean, what else did they have?
You could store all that. You could store.
Yeah, right. Right, but it must be that it was better. Is it? Yeah, of course you can. But what they're saying is that it's better if it's been more preserved. Yeah, Jerry, you're trying Judah?
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates. They also have pomegranates. Yes, right.
I was thinking of, let's say, pears and, well, I know that pears and bananas, when you put
I don't think they had those.
When you,
pears and bananas are not mentioned in the Bible.
well, okay. The
bananas, I think, are created like Hawaii. I don't know where bananas come from.
Lots of places.
In 3 minutes, it's finishing.
What are you saying, Judah?
I said.
Oh, you're muted. Okay, fine. All right, fine. So we have to stop here. I'm sorry, my friends. We have to stop. It's 6:30. We have to pray.